Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes ball. Speedball might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal!
Hi everybody and welcome back to the Wolves Fancast YouTube channel for your latest tactical analysis with me, Gully. We're going to be delving into our new record signing actually on loan with a view to that €50 million deal, Matheus Cunha, who made his full debut against West Ham at the weekend. We're also going to be talking about playing out from the back, some of the travails we've had with that approach under Julian Lopetegui, and finally actually going to do a little bit of a comparison between Hugo Bueno and Rayan Ait-Nouri. Now, let's get straight into it. New signing Matheus Cunha. I'm just going to set the scene a little bit with some data to highlight what exactly we were getting when we signed Matheus Cunha. He was kind of number one priority for Lopetegui. When he joined the club, the deal was done as soon as we could from the start of the January transfer window. There is probably a suggestion we paid over the odds, but I think it was really important to the manager that we actually brought him in. And from his FBref profile, these are kind of his headline figures you can see here. We weren't necessarily getting a prolific striker. His goal record isn't something that screams, really prolific, but he's a bit of a facilitator in attack, really good numbers in terms of assists. He gets plenty of shots away as well. Shot creating actions is high. Likes to carry the ball, completes plenty of dribbles for a number 9 kind of player, but also really good off the ball. And I think he's going to become really important to the way we press teams out of possession as Julian Lopetegui looks to implement that kind of more intense style of play compared to the way we were prior to the World Cup. If I just kind of bring in the tactics that we've employed with Cunha in the side, and this is kind of where we've looked to play him from the start against West Ham, at least in that 4-2-3-1 shape. He had João Moutinho in support with Daniel Podence and Hwang Hee-chan kind of offering some help in the wide areas. He has also played at the tip of a front three in a 3-4-3 as well, and also with more of a kind of flatter midfield, and him right at the tip of that front three in a 4-3-3 as well. Now, as I've kind of mentioned, he's more of a facilitator than an actual number 9 centre forward. And in terms of output so far, we can look at the 2 assists that he's provided, goals for Hwang Hee-chan against Liverpool in the Cup, and also for Raul Jimenez in the Carabao Cup against Nottingham Forest. You see him picking up ball in that kind of inside channel in the penalty area and crossing for players who are making runs into the box. Now, this is where I think he will thrive as a facilitator, kind of supporting attacks. But I think what we found in the game against West Ham is that he could be a little bit isolated if he hasn't got someone close to him who he's able to play off. Now, I mentioned obviously that João Moutinho was kind of in that number 10 position. I have covered previously what he is bringing to us in that position, which is more of an off-the-ball presence, marking kind of a sitting midfielder who looks to dictate play from the opposition. But Cunha really struggled to get into the game a fat lot in the West Ham fixture. From a goal scoring perspective, trying to get chances in on goal here, you can see kind of a situation where he receives the ball to feet, tries to play a 1-2 with Hwang, who had taken up a bit of a centre forward position as well, but crowded out without kind of what I would call like a reference point striker. You need someone alongside Cunha, I believe, to actually allow him to make runs around. Hwang isn't really that player, who's going to fight off centre halves and allow Cunha to do his best work. And you saw when he came on against Liverpool, he didn't start that game. When he had someone up top to play with, he linked up really, really nicely. He didn't get obviously more than half an hour, I think, in that game. But there was a situation in the second half here where he flicks the ball in towards Costa. Costa lays the ball off and he gets a decent chance to score where the finish was pretty poor, which I think the bottom line is that's going to be one of his kind of more weaker elements of his game is his finishing. But he's kind of got a little bit of ingenuity about him. A similar situation here again, where to the one with West Ham, where he plays with Raul Jimenez up top, plays a 1-2, bursts in towards the area, but was fouled, and we win a free kick on the edge of the area. In terms of kind of highlighting the way he operated as a 9 up to this point, you can see here his touch map against West Ham, and I'm comparing it with Raul against Forest, who is, like you say, that kind of more of a reference point striker. He has tended in recent games to really flit in and out of games in the wider positions, Raul, but against Forest, you can see there's kind of a more of a focus about him picking the ball up in higher parts of the pitch. Cunha here, there's plenty of action around the halfway line, actually, and sporadic touches of the ball in the final third, but he's working across the entirety of the half. Jimenez, as that reference point, is picking up the ball higher up the pitch, like I say. And that's where I think, if you was to kind of overlay those two touch maps against each other and were to look at them two as a front two, they would look kind of really healthy in terms of the amount of touches that they've had around the penalty area. And that's where I think he's going to get the most joy. Now, I have kind of highlighted in a Twitter post, so go and check out, you can see my Twitter handle there at Molyneux Musings, how I expect Lopetegui to line up now that Pablo Sarabia has joined the club as well. Diego Costa is back fit and available to select from the start of games, I would assume, now that he's played the return to the side against Liverpool from the bench. I would soon expect us to kind of operate in a bit more of a 4-4-2 shape, with Cunha as that kind of second striker, making runs into those channels and looking to provide for a more fixed striker. Now, the other thing that I think was worth bearing in mind with our approach to games at the moment is the fact that we're looking to really try and play out from the back. Now, there's been talk of Jose Sar's position being under threat because Lopetegui isn't quite happy with his ability on the ball. I think he showed in certain elements of the game against Liverpool in the week, in particular, that he wasn't quite comfortable with the ball at his feet, giving the ball away. But he is basically a step above Rui Patricio in that regard. I think that's why he came into the club. He's a more proactive goalkeeper. He is more comfortable with the ball at his feet than Rui would have been. But just start kind of outlining exactly why we're trying to play that way. I've got a couple of examples here from the game against West Ham, which one worked really well and one didn't work so well. But ultimately, my point here is to try and justify the approach. To start with, in that first screenshot, Jose Sa had the ball at his feet. He actually plays out to Kilman, who then plays it back to him in a deeper position, which the whole point being to kind of draw the opposition onto us. We'll all remember this moment, I think. It was quite hairy because Michail Antonio actually slides in to kind of block an attempted pass. And Jose Sa actually really composed, takes an extra touch and finds Nelson Semedo in that wide berth right in the touchline. You can see we really are kind of penned into that area, but Semedo finds a pass out into the feet of, I think it was João Moutinho, who is kind of with his back to play, tight with a defender tight to him. But the key here is that Nelson Semedo carries on his run, takes out a number of players. And in that screenshot number 5 here, you can see we've got kind of 4-5 midfielders and forwards in his wake. We've got an extra runner running alongside him and only 2 defenders in shot there. So the whole point of drawing that group of players onto us, trusting our technical ability to kind of play out, and then ultimately creating space to go out and have an attempt at goal, which didn't really come to fruition. Hwang receives the ball in a really good spot, but he doesn't actually kind of drive with any sense of aggression towards goal there. And that was the disappointing part from the end of that move, really. So ultimately, the tactic has worked in that scenario and we've worked a good position, but this is where we've let ourselves down throughout the season. Now, there was another situation in this game where it didn't quite go to plan. Again here, so under pressure from Antonio. He plays the ball into Ruben Neves, who is our deepest midfielder, the man who tends to start our attacks and probably our most secure player in possession. You can see he's immediately looking first time to play at kind of a big ball into one of the forwards who has probably made a run potentially in behind the West Ham defence. He actually ends up finding one of the more advanced West Ham midfielders. Now, appreciate that there is risk involved in that. I think ultimately most of us would trust Neves to find a pass in that scenario. The fact that he's made a bit of a mistake doesn't necessarily detract from the approach. It is just bad execution. And I think there was some anxiety from the stands kind of filtering down to the players, which meant that players lost a little bit of composure at times. And I think we could do with supporting them in that approach, because if they are calm on the ball, if they will make decisions with better clarity, and ultimately we are a team that needs space in the final third to play. So if we do manage to build that kind of space through attracting teams onto us and getting them to press us and playing through that press, we're more likely to create better chances in the final third. We saw against Liverpool when they dropped back into their own half, once they went 1-0 up, and second half especially, they kind of sat quite deep. We really struggled to create any opportunities. It wasn't until kind of Cunha came on, Costa came on, that we kind of linked up a little bit better in the final third, but really our quality was lacking when it came to playing against a deeper defence. Now, finally, I had a question. I put a bit of a call out to see if there's anything anybody wanted to know more about from a tactical perspective or a data perspective. And the question was asked about between Hugo Bueno and Rayan Ait-Nouri, who's kind of offering us more in that left back position. Now, we know Rayan Ait-Nouri hasn't really operated from left back. He has played wing back when Lopetegui has decided to change shape to a back five. But generally speaking, it's been Bueno who's been fielded as the left back in a four, and Rayan Ait-Nouri has played a little bit more advanced and scored 2 goals in the games. Obviously, the winner against Everton and a goal against Gillingham. So, slight caveat on the numbers here is that Ait-Nouri has had more minutes in an advanced position up the pitch. But in terms of pulling out some of the key metrics that I think are important to a fullback in a Lopetegui system, they are a conduit for attacks. They are asked to do quite a bit of work in both areas of the field. So I've looked at progressive passes, expected assists, key passes, crosses, shot creating actions, tackles won, tackles and interceptions, dribbles completed, and progressive passes received. They're all really key parts of the game for a Lopetegui fullback. Now, Green is highlighted here where whichever player is kind of winning on that metric, and you can see straight away that Ait-Nouri is a more progressive player. He looks to play more progressive passes. He is receiving more progressive passes as well. So he's picking up balls in higher areas of the field, which is probably slightly skewed by the fact that he has played as a winger in many games this season as well. But he's also slightly ahead on shot creating actions and significantly ahead on dribbles completed. He's very much a man with the ball at his feet who likes to go and attack people, which we love to see. He is also, though, at the same time, a more active defender. So you will notice he has made some rash decisions when it comes to making tackles. And while he is higher on the tackles won metric, I don't recall exactly, but I think in terms of attempted tackles, I think he was higher in terms of numbers than Hugo Bueno as well. He was slightly more passive, looks to kind of hold his man up and jockey a bit more. I think Ait-Nouri gave a penalty away earlier this season against Fulham, which fortunately they missed. But he does like to be a little bit rash in his decision making sometimes. And whereas Ait-Nouri will dribble and look to beat his man in most situations, Hugo Bueno is very much looking to cross the ball into the area. So he's ahead on that metric. And key passes are passes that lead to a shot at goal, and he's leading on that front. Out of the two, from my understanding, I think Bueno's the only one with an assist so far this season. And that was in his first start against Crystal Palace when he assisted for Adama Traore to score at the back post. So both of them could probably do with providing better quality into the box. But ultimately, it's Bueno's shirt to lose at the moment. Everyone's pretty comfortable with the way he's been playing. Ait-Nouri is a really, really good option to have as a different kind of option. He likes to play him. Lopetegui likes to play him as a left-sided winger now, with that ability to go on the outside of teams. But I think really he's a plan B compared to the way that Lopetegui will look to play, especially with Podence and Sarabia. I think they're going to be the key players for those wider slots in more of a 4-4-2 kind of shape going forward. Like I say, go to my Twitter feed to see what I make of what I think our system will be going forward now that the team's starting to take shape with some new signings. I think the first 11 is there or thereabouts. Whatever signings we make now are likely to be more kind of squad depth options. But it's really going to be interesting to see now that we've only got 19 games left in the Premier League, what kind of consistency we can build within the lineup, how much rotation we see. We know Lopetegui likes to make all of his subs in a game, which he has done because of arguably the lack of fitness that he's seen in the squad. And we'll pick up kind of on the Sunday against Manchester City. I always think a game against Manchester City and how you approach it says a lot about a manager and the way they go about it. So yeah, look to see what exactly Julian looks to do against them, and hopefully we can start picking up some more results and continue the positive momentum.